Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at a Midwest snowstorm that could be occurring throughout the middle portion of the week next week. So we're going to start off here with the National Weather Service. Getting right into things here, we have high wind warnings and watches in effect for parts of Montana. Then we have high fire danger over parts of California, Nevada, and then into Arizona with those red flag warnings in pink, and then also some wind advisories and wind warnings. Then we have some winter weather advisories. One county there in New Mexico seeing winter storm warnings, and then we have hard freeze warnings down in New Mexico and Texas, and then freeze warnings in those dark blues for Texas, and also a little bit of New Mexico. All these are associated with this one sort of system that's going to be bringing about 3 inches widespread. Of course, some locally higher amounts. So a very early system that impacts this area, but it'll eventually start moving north and out into Canada. And then we also have some flash flood watches and some flood advisories in effect for parts of Mississippi. Now, we're going to look at this snowstorm for the Midwest through early to mid next week from the European model, and then we're also going to be looking at the GFS model. So this is this system that's going to be bringing some thunderstorms to the southeast, but that's not what we're focusing on. We're focusing on this area right over here in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, all of these areas up in Canada. This little low pressure is going to kind of dip down and then kind of moved out into the Midwest and bring some snowfall on the northern side. So you see how it starts to move into Montana by Saturday in the morning, and then it makes its way down into the central Rockies by Sunday morning, and then Sunday afternoon really progressing, starting to get into some of those plain states, and then it's going to drastically intensify and it's going to move into the Midwest by Tuesday morning. And Tuesday morning, you're going to be seeing some heavy to moderate snowfall over parts of Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and that's going to kind of continue, and then it's going to move out by Wednesday morning, and then you'll see right here another batch of snowfall that looks to not be as strong, kind of move out. Now we're going to look at your rainfall totals from this, and you see we have this some of this is actually in the form of snowfall. Generally it's around 1 inch of rainfall equals 10 inches of snowfall. So if you saw 10 inches of snowfall, you would see about 1 inch of liquid precipitation, and that's the case over parts of Wisconsin, Iowa, and then stretching into Missouri, Nebraska, Kansas. So some of that is in the form of snowfall, especially north and west of this line. But for the rest of this is all in the form of rainfall. In those greens, you're about a tenth of an inch to half an inch. In the blues, you're half an inch to 1 inch, 1 to 2 inches in those yellows, 2 to 5 in those reds, and then if you're in a brown, you're about 5 to 7. Isolated areas seeing above 7 inches, around 7 to about 8 inches over parts of northern Mississippi and then southern Tennessee, and then also for parts of northern Texas. Of course, the exact positioning of that could change. It really depends on where these bands of thunderstorms really set up, and these areas actually do need some rainfall, but more to the east, mainly areas like Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas really don't need the rainfall, but areas east of that, like Atlanta, Georgia, and then once you get into the Carolinas, they really need some. They're in an extreme drought right now. Now here's your snowfall. And you see, we're seeing about 6 inches in those purples, and that's about 6 to 12 inches. In the blues, you're about 2 to 6 inches, and then a dusting in those grays. So you see this swath of about 3 to 6 inches, and some isolated areas in Wisconsin and Iowa seeing more than that. And then all the snows in the higher elevations for the most part in the Rocky Mountains. And you're actually going to be seeing two systems in that same time period that'll bring some snowfall. Now here's your GFS model. Now we start off at the same period, Saturday morning, starts to dip in from Canada. Again, we're looking up here in the northwest, and that little batch of snowfall is going to actually turn into this system. So you see that it kind of dissipates and it kind of weakens, and then it moves south into Colorado and then strengthens again. And it's gonna move out into the Midwest, but not as strong as the European model. You see, this model doesn't. The GFS model doesn't have that cold air. So the cold air. Let's kind of explain what's happening. The cold air, kind of that 32-degree line, moving right behind the front. So since the GFS model is pushing this out east, it's not allowing it to converge with this cold air. So that's leading to not a lot of snowfall, really just some patchy areas in there for a couple of hours where you see some snowfall, but not really that band of snowfall that we like to see in classic winter storms. Now here, as we move on, it just keeps on moving into Canada, into Ontario and Quebec. Now here's your rainfall, and you see most of this actually is in the form of rainfall this time. In those greens, you're about 1/100 of an inch to a half an inch. Then you're in those blues, 1/2 inch to 2 inches, 2 to 6 in those purples. In those reds and oranges, that's about 6 to 12 inches. And then if you're anywhere in those golds or yellows, you're about 12 plus inches. Luckily, none of these areas are seeing above 6 inches of rainfall. Some of these areas down in the southeast actually need a lot of that rainfall. They're gonna pick up about 1/2 inch to 2 inches. Some areas seeing around 2 to 3, 4 inches isolated in isolated spots due to some thunderstorms and that system that's moving through. But you see, not a lot of actual precipitation up where the system is going to form, where the snowfall is going to be up in the Great Lakes. Now, here's your snowfall. You see little to nothing over to these areas. Your blues are going to be about 1/10 of an inch to 3 inches. In those purples, about 4 to 6, 6 to 12 in those pinks. And then once you get into the greens, you're about 12 to 24. And if you are in a blue or a gray, you're about 24 plus inches. None of these areas seeing more than that. In the Rocky Mountains, some areas seeing about 1 foot of snowfall, but you see not a lot of snowfall actually over these areas, little to none, and these patchy areas signifying that this model has low confidence in this actually happening. So we're gonna finally look at this little map I made. So I made a map showing the different storm tracks from 6 models, and this includes the GFS, the GDPS, the ICON model, the CMC model, the CFS model, and the European model, and it's showing these storm tracks from these models. And you kind of see how we're pretty certain that it's gonna dip down anywhere from Colorado and New Mexico, and then kind of turn forward, turn north as it starts to hit Texas and Oklahoma, and then turns north. The CFS model in this light blue shade is it's more of an Alberta Clipper type of system, and it's showing more scattered snow showers, and it doesn't really have this system forming. The CMC model in this orange, see how it has it dipping down and then kind of a bit east than most of the models. Then the ICON model, the European model, sorry, in this light green, and that's gonna be your European model storm track. It has it dipping down farther south, and then it has a good swath of snowfall over to these areas. So how this system plays out is really going to affect what model I'm really going to use as we get into the winter time, because the credibility of these models really impacts which models I'm going to choose to show in my videos, because I want to show the best information to you guys. And then finally, I want to just show a bit of an outlier, the GFS model, kind of showing it going off and out, so not really forming that well, and that cold air is still stuck right behind here. So this precipitation is really mixing in with this cold air right here, and that's leading to little to no snowfall. If you did enjoy that video, please like the video and subscribe. Also, don't forget to turn on notifications. It's that little bell icon, and you'll never miss a video when I upload. Thanks for watching, guys. That was Eli the Weather Guy, and I'll see you guys in the next one.